Hey guys, today I'm going to be sharing some tips with you on how to cover up textured blemishes. So I'm talking about those blemishes that you pick at and then later get a scab and they are impossible to cover because they are so textured and they just look horrible on the skin. And if you are a picker like me and you're guilty of always popping your zits when you know you're not supposed to, you know that this is an issue when it comes to makeup. So I'm going to share some tips with you on how to get a smoother finish when covering up a textured blemish. One thing I do want to let you guys know before I jump into this tutorial is that a lot of the photos you see on Instagram that are before and afters of acne and then acne that has been covered up, the final photo normally is edited slightly in order for it to just look better for Instagram. So I say this because I've worked with clients before where they're like, it doesn't look smooth when I'm trying to cover up a blemish, or why doesn't it look smooth like this person? And a bump or a blemish, no matter how much you smooth it out, it's going to be there. But I just want to let you guys know that because I know a lot of photos can be deceiving and then you wonder why you can't get the same finish. So if you guys are interested and want to see what some of my tips are, keep on watching. My first tip has to do with skincare because first and foremost, you want to take care of your skin so that you don't have to cover it up with loads of makeup later. So my first suggestion is to use a drying cream in order to release all the gunk that is in your blemish versus picking at it and popping it with your fingers, which is an absolute no, even though I am guilty of doing it all the time. The one I'm currently using is the Kate Somerville ERADIKATE. This is really similar to the Mario Badescu drying cream that you see a lot of people using. And the way you use this product is you dip a Q-tip into it without shaking this bottle. It even says on here, do not shake. You want there to be a separation of the liquid from the actual sulfur, I believe it is. That's the pink cream that's at the bottom. You dip a Q-tip into the pink cream that's sitting at the bottom, and then you dab the product onto the blemishes and leave it overnight or for several hours in order for the white part of the blemish to basically go away and disappear. So that way there's no more buildup left in the blemish. The redness might still be there, but all the gunk will be out of the blemish. So that way you don't pick at it and cause a scab or texture later on the skin. Tip number 2 is to exfoliate. So if you've already picked at the blemish and a scab has developed, normally I would say just let it breathe, wait it out till the scab goes away. But there are those certain occasions when you have a special event and you need to put makeup on and you need to cover it up. So that's when I say exfoliate, just to lighten the texture a bit and make it a little smoother when applying makeup. I am currently using the Dr. Lancer polish, which is an exfoliant. Really pricey, but I've never felt an exfoliant so, I don't know how to explain it. It works really well. It has a lot of exfoliants in it. And what really attracted me to this product is that I was talking to someone at Nordstrom that worked there, and they said that this exfoliant has beads that are perfectly round, so it doesn't really damage your skin. I need to do some research on it. I'm not sure if I believe her yet or not, but it is meant to be used daily. It's too strong for me, so I only use it every once in a while. And I use the sensitive formula. This is the regular one. This does come in like a 3-system kit where you're supposed to cleanse, use this, and then moisturize. But I highly recommend the polish for extreme exfoliation. Tip number 3 is yet another skincare item, and this is vitamin E oil. This works the same as the rosehip oil that I've talked about in previous videos. And the reason I'm saying use an oil like vitamin E or rosehip is because the last thing you want is a textured, dry blemish. So the more dry skin that is on the blemish, the more it's gonna show up later underneath the makeup. So you just want to keep it really hydrated so that it lessens the amount of texture that is there and really softens out the scab that is on the blemish. And I like vitamin E and rosehip because they're natural products and I feel like they really do a good job at softening the scab and treating it at the same time. Tip number 4 is to use a primer that has a silicone in it. And normally I don't like these types of primers. They feel really heavy on my skin and tend to dry it out. But when there is a blemish, do use a primer with a silicone in it. A great example of this is the Tarte Clean Slate Timeless Smoothing Primer. This product's great because it's thicker than your average primer, so you can just spot correct versus applying it all over your face, which is how I like to use it. So I'll take my finger and just apply it over the area that has the blemish, smooth it out, and then pat it on top to make sure it's completely sealed and smoothed out. Tip number 5 is to pat on your foundation to make sure that it's going on directly over top of the area that you put the primer. So you can use a buffing motion, however, I just find that it moves around the primer and the textured area or the blemish tends to show up more later on, and then you have to use even more concealer. Patting on your foundation allows the foundation to go directly on top of the blemish and really cover it up, so that way you use less concealer later. Tip number 6 is to go in with a concealer to further cover it up and again to pat it on. I always like to scoop out concealer, apply it to the back of my hand, warm it up, and then place it over the blemish so that it is more emollient, and I find that it covers the blemish a lot more naturally versus going in with a concealer straight from the container. And I really love the MAC concealers that come in a kit like this because they have different colors, so depending on what area of your face the blemish is on, you can adjust the colors. And it also comes with correctors, which leads me to my next tip, which I don't know what number tip it is anymore, I've lost count, but that is to correct a blemish if it's showing up dark. So if you try and cover up a really dark blemish, something that has like a scab on it, for example, you'll end up with gray spots around your face. So if you correct it first and give it like the under eyes, correct it first, then cover it with concealer so that it shows up true to your skin tone versus dark spots across the face. My next tip is to set the blemished areas with powder to not only mattify them, but to also make sure that they are completely set and they will not pop up later in your day. And my last tip is to use less highlighters on blemished areas. So if you notice, I have a blemish right here, so I skipped highlighting that area because anything that is highlighted will show up with more texture. So if you have a blemish right here on the nose, on the chin, and you place highlighter over it, it's gonna make it more obvious and it's gonna make it stand out even more. So just avoid highlighter, go for more of a matte finish, and if you still wanna highlight, use a highlighter that's a lot more subtle versus one that is really extreme. All right guys, that completes all of my tips on how to cover up a textured blemish. I hope you guys found this helpful. As always, if you did, thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. So I see you in the next one. Bye guys.